Hey hockey player, in this video I'm going to run you through an everyday edge work routine that's guaranteed to make you a faster skater in 30 days or less. Figuratively speaking, I want you to think about your body right now like a high performance car. Do you ever think before the most important race of the year that they just throw any old tires on that car and let it hit the track? Absolutely not. A tire needs to be extremely high quality and built exactly for that car in order to get the greatest amount of responsiveness so that the driver has immediate feedback on what he's doing on the track. There needs to be enough friction with the tires to generate as much acceleration as fast as possible, and there needs to be enough balance and stability present with those tires for him to have optimal control while he's moving at such high velocities. That's exactly what you need in hockey, in your ankles and your hips. This is the true key to unlocking your edge work, and yet it's something that's completely trainable every single day, body weight only, in limited space, with absolutely no equipment or ice skates necessary at all. Your tires are your hips and your ankles, and we need to train hip stability, hip mobility, ankle stability, ankle mobility, core strength, and lower body structural balance. If you can knock all of these down and do it every single day, you, my friend, are guaranteed to become a faster skater in 30 days or less. Here's how we're going to do it. We're going to kick this thing off with T-stands. You've heard me talk about T-stands before, and it's because it's one of my favorite exercises in the hockey training game. What we're going to do is, as part of the everyday edge work routine, we're going to perform 10 reps per leg. How it's going to be done is you're going to be in full shoulder extension here, and I'm going to create full extension at my hips and glutes as well to form a T with my body. I'm going to lower my way down, find that T position, and then bring myself back up. This exercise is way harder than it looks, and even the most advanced athletes struggle with it. So if you struggle with it, don't give yourself a hard time. This is also one of those strange exercises where the slower you go, the harder it is. Because if you go fast, you're able to get in and out of it, but that's actually not the objective if you want to improve your hockey performance. We slowly go down. We create that T. You can see I'm already shaking with my ankle here, and I'm stabilizing my upper body with my hips. So when I gave you the first 6 things that we need to improve our edge work, I said ankle stability and hip stability were a part of that. This is the T-stand, checking both of those boxes. And yet the T-stand not only trains your ankle stability and your hip stability, it also does it in a way that challenges your balance and lengthens the hamstrings at the exact same time. One of the best edge work drills. We need to be stable in our ankles and our hips, because a lot of people think edge work is just mobility, but that's only half the battle. Mobility means nothing unless you're stable within those ranges of motion. That's what's going to allow you to get deep on those inside and outside edges and actually generate a ton of force in order to be an explosively fast hockey player. T-stands, 10 reps per leg. Once you've finished your T-stands, we're going to move into toes elevated squats. Now, this type of a routine, it's body weight only. We also wanted to make sure you could do it absolutely anywhere. If you're at the office, if you're at work, if you're at home, if you're in the living room, no matter what, you can do it with anything. Right here, we're just using a 2x4 because I want you to elevate your toes maybe 1 to 2 inches. You're going to be amazed at the difference in range of motion this creates with your squat. Now, I've been training over 15 years, right? So here, boom. Squatting is very easy for me. I can hit that bottom range of motion, have the proper shin to foot angles, have the proper posture. I can do all of that without a problem. When you start adding ankle mobility into the equation, it's going to cut your range of motion in half, and it's going to start making you feel a little bit silly about yourself. Because I'm going to be here, I'm going to try and maintain that posture, and then I start struggling a lot at the bottom of the movement. Why? Because it creates a dramatically different mobility requirement for the ankle complex, the calf, and the Achilles tendon. Why is that beneficial for you? We want to mobilize that ankle. With the T-stand, we already stabilized the ankle and the hip, but now we want to mobilize the ankle because conversely, if you have excellently stable ankles, that doesn't mean a whole lot if you can't get deep on your inside and outside edges, right? Or create that full right ankle that you need for your mohawk turns. You want to have optimal mobility to match your optimal stability to create true functional outputs on the ice that are going to make the greatest difference in how you skate. Look, just like with the car analogy, right? It doesn't matter how awesome your Formula One engine is if you've got mountain bike tires on the car. When we start putting all of the stability and the right movement and coordination and balance requirements required structurally and coordinationally for these certain structures of the body, that's when you start seeing the difference, right? We know a lot of people that have a lot of gym strength, but no hockey strength. And we also know people that have a lot of hockey strength and yet appear weaker in the gym. Why is that? It's the difference between bodybuilding and hockey training, powerlifting and athletics. We need not just the horsepower, the strength in the engine, but we need the tires trained in a hockey-specific way so we can maximally use this horsepower in optimal technical skill expression out on the ice. We know fitness isn't the only answer. Technique has to be there to match that fitness. Yet we use dryland modalities to maximize our fitness, but we also use dryland modalities to maximize our mobility and stability so that our technical expression is higher than it otherwise would have been. You can't just be only on ice. You can't just be only off ice. It's the marriage of these two that takes your game to an entirely different stratosphere. What do we have next, right? We've done the T-stands. We've done the toes elevated squats. Moving now, Bulgarian split squats. You might be seeing a theme here because I've talked about T-stands about 1,000,000 times in the past. I've also talked about Bulgarian split squats about 1,000,000 times in the past. Bulgarian split squats, you can use anything you want. You can use the ottoman of a couch. You can use a chair. You can use a bench. You can use pretty much anything. For the purposes of this video, we're just using a box here. Ideally, it would be somewhere below knee height. When it's above knee height, you start actually getting into ranges of motion that aren't going to be beneficial for you. But when it's below knee height, that's what's going to be considered optimal. How you want to set up this movement, and if I didn't mention it, I do want you to perform 10 of the toes elevated squats just before we move on, although you can find this entire workout in the description of this video. This next movement is going to be the Bulgarian split squat. You can set yourself up here comfortably, moving back, making sure that whatever implement you're using is at the crease of your foot. When you do this, it's going to minimize pain, and that's obviously optimal for hockey training. Now, another common misconception is that people think your knee can't pass your toe. That's a huge myth debunked 2+ decades ago. You can absolutely have your knee pass the toe, provided your heel doesn't come up off the ground. If you're squatting down and your heel comes up, that's creating too much torque force on your knee connective tissue, and that will break your knee down. But if you have the ankle mobility, which you will because we're improving your edge work, you are going to be able to come slightly past your toe, and that is a-okay with this exercise. Keep a good posture, find that crease, be here, and you're going to come up and down, up and down. Here, what are we going to do? We're going to keep the theme of 10 per side. Why are we doing the Bulgarian split squat? Well, for 2 reasons I mentioned in the beginning. We're doing the Bulgarian split squat for hip mobility and lower body structural balance. See, that's why we actually elevate our rear foot, because it forces the hips to go through a larger range of motion than if you were to just split squat on flat ground. Elevating your back leg forces the hips to go through a greater range of motion, and when you do that, you unlock your hips. What does unlocking your hips do? Right into mohawk turns, right? Our hips are actually extremely connected, very obviously, to things such as mohawk turns, but not as obvious to things such as stride length and stride frequency. If you have tight hips, you will never optimize your stride length or your stride frequency. When you unlock them, you are going to reach what I call dormant performance. Right now, your performance ceiling is here because you have tight hips. But your strength and power expression may be higher than your hips are allowing you to express out in the ice. When we unlock your hips, your dormant performance increases, and therefore your performance ceiling goes way up, because now we're maximizing your stride length and your stride frequency out in the ice. So, quick recap. Our T-stands optimized our ankle stability and hip stability. Our toes elevated squats optimized our ankle mobility, whereas our Bulgarian split squats optimized our structural balance in the lower body as well as our hip mobility. Checking all the boxes, and if you've been listening carefully, we're only missing one box out of the 6 that optimize your edge work. What is it? Core strength. Core strength is key to as many things as you could possibly think about in terms of hockey performance. If you wanted to play the most boring game in the entire world, you would look at the biomechanics of hockey and try not to connect something to core stability. You're never going to win that game. Core stability is key for shot power, agility, speed, conditioning, coordination. You name it, it's all required and transferred through that core. Why are we using the core in terms of, why are we doing what I'm going to use for the plank for edge work? A lot of people will think, I can connect the core to shot power because there's rotation. I can connect the core to staying strong in the puck because no one's going to be able to knock me over. But how the heck is that going to optimize my edge work? My edge work seems to be with my feet. Well, it is with your feet and with your hips. And when you have a strong core, you actually send the neurological signals to your hips that allow them to unlock themselves. Why does everybody have tight hip flexors? Why do so many hockey players have tight hip flexors? Lots of times it's because they do a lot of sitting throughout the day, and hockey is a game largely played in flexion, sure. But unsurprisingly, your hip flexors attach at the spine. And the body is first and foremost a survival machine more than it is a hockey performance machine. I know we want it to be a hockey performance machine, but it's not going to support hockey performance at the expense of the health of your spine. So what does this mean? If your core, which is prime function to stabilize the spine, is not strong enough to stabilize your spine during the high velocity movements that you're doing out in the ice, then your body will create artificial tightness around the pelvis and spine to tighten things up so that you don't move at the velocities and you don't operate at the force outputs that could potentially put your spine and pelvis at risk for injury. Your body does that as a protective mechanism. So you could be doing and this is, so many people do this. You could be doing all the hip mobility drills in the world. You could be doing all the hamstring mobility, and you're that guy who's like, man, I do everything, and I just can't unlock my hips or hamstrings. It wasn't a flexibility problem. It was a stability problem. Your body's neurologically not allowing you to enter those ranges of motion because you're not stable enough to be able to handle those ranges of motion at the velocities you're trying to do. You can think about it like shooting a cannon out of a canoe. Your body would not, your brain would say, hey, don't do this. We're not in a stable enough environment in order to produce that level of velocity and force. But when you create a battleship of your core, then shoot all the cannons you want because you've got a stable enough structure to deal with any velocity or any incoming or outgoing force expressions on the ice. So what are we going to do to correct all of that? And among many other things that the core is involved with, let's just keep it easy. Do that plank. We're going to be here. We're going to have our feet straight out. If you struggle with the plank, it's actually a little bit easier to widen your feet. But if you don't struggle too much, you're going to get more out of it by narrowing your feet. You want to be here. You don't want to be dipping low. You don't want to be going too high. You want to be nice, stable, strong structure here. You're going to hold that for 30 to 60 seconds to create a stable core, which sends the neurological signals to your hips and overall pelvic trunk area to be able to relax and fully express the edge work that you want to express out in the ice. Again, pushing that potential ceiling to an entirely new level. What we request from our everyday edge work routine at the beginning of the video: ankle stability, hip mobility, ankle mobility, lower body structural balance, and core strength. By performing the T-stands and then the toes elevated squats and then the Bulgarian split squats and then the plank, those 4 exercises knock down all 6 goals of optimizing your edge work. And what's the beauty of this? It is body weight only, meaning it is penalty-free volume. This is training volume that can be added to any existing hockey training program without impacting your current recovery capacity. This is why you can perform it every single day, and this is why it's going to make you a faster skater in 30 days or less. 10 reps on the T-stand per leg. 10 reps on the toes elevated squats. We're going to be doing 10 reps per leg on the Bulgarian split squat, and then 30 to 60 seconds on the plank. Only one set of each. This is an active recovery routine to make you a better skater, not a training routine to make you a better skater. The reason why you can add this to any existing program is because it is an active recovery modality and not a complete training program modality. Got it? Good. All right. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did like this video and you're thinking about using it and you want to use this to become a better hockey player, make sure you hit that thumbs up button for me and also subscribe to the Hockey Training channel. And if you want to take your edge work to an entirely different planet and do other routines on top of this routine to get that one step ahead of the competition, ensure that explosive speed, acceleration, and top speed separates you from everybody else, then click on the link in the comment section below because the Edge Work Enhancer is going to blow your mind. Let's go.